keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We're streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, share, or follow, or check out clovercrestmedia.com for us, our podcast, and many more podcasts, including sports and documentaries. Also, murder mysteries, too. We're doing something new today. It is 23 days, approximately, 23 days away from the NFL draft, the 2022 draft. Also, I like to call it the uncertain NFL draft, uncertainty NFL draft, because of, well, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, we don't know what's going to happen. But first, before we get into that, so what we're doing today, we're going to be talking about from here on out until the draft, we're going to be doing a specific section. Today is picks 1 through 8, talking about what to make of the top 8 in this year's 2022 draft. But first, let's talk about last night. There was a national championship game that was going underway in New Orleans. Let's just say a tale of two halves. We saw how this tournament was, and it ended up becoming 4 of the true blue bloods fighting for a chance to win a national championship. And then last night it came down to the Tar Heels of North Carolina versus the Jayhawks of Kansas, and the game delivered as expected, ladies and gentlemen. I know that we always like to talk about tournaments like, oh, we love the upsets. We love the Cinderellas. Yeah, we get that. But this tournament, I just think from top to bottom, from start to finish, Ted, I know you were in Florida watching it at the time too. I just thought this was a overall solid tournament where you did have the upsets, but you had the playmakers, you had the big-time stars really showcase their talents. And then at the end, you get your final 4 of Villanova, Kansas, and then Duke and North Carolina. If you're just a college basketball fan in general, specifically a college basketball fan, I'd give this a solid B+ to an A NCAA tournament. You couldn't have gone wrong. And last night, Ted, you see how it ultimately prevailed for Kansas. Well, when we were texting in the first half, I was like, oh, boy. Looks like North Carolina might be running the Kansas Jayhawks out of the gym. But like I said, it was a tale of two halves, Ted.
Yeah, I was surprised your text last night, because I thought my coworker, Paul Standish, you guys were on the same page, because he's like, oh, this game's over. He's like, they can't come back. I go, does anyone watch college basketball anymore? Does anyone watch sports? It's called runs. College basketball is all about runs. One team goes on to 7. If you remember the Villanova game against Kansas, Villanova had that big 7-10 10-0 run. They cut it to 6, but they never got closer. That's what college basketball is about. It's about maintaining those runs and not giving a big run. I mean, if you remember the game in Elite 8, Miami and Kansas went on a 26-7 run. They ended up crushing like 41-15 in the second half. It was just total domination. But I wish I had paid attention a little bit more to college basketball at the beginning of the season. I had not realized that this Kansas team was fully loaded. I did not realize they had 4 seniors on this team. I did not realize that this team was the loaded team from that 2020 team that got canceled, that would have been the number 1 overall seed. In that COVID year that we all lost out on our lives for a year. But great game last night. Overall, great game. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I thought you had everything you needed, right? So your Kansas comes out, bang. Achobe hits, Baji hits the 3, bang from the corner, same spot he hit from Villanova. I'm like, oh, here we go. They jump up on UNC real quick. It was like similar to like the Villanova game, like 7-0.
Right off the bat.
Ooh, I like that comment. Let's add that comment. Oh, that's a beautiful comment. Good for you, bro.
23. Good for you, Sander. Appreciate it. Let me have some of that money.
Send some love over the Keys of the City.
Yeah, I'll take some of that money for you.
With that being said, so great start to the game. So you get the entertainment. You have 2 bloods. I think the only thing would have been different is if Duke was in it, you would have had a little bit more, because it would have been Coach K's national championship. But I think if you stem trend from what you said with the whole the tournament, overall, I thought a really good tournament. You know, some people say, maybe not as much upsets. We didn't get some of listen. You had a lot of the big teams lose early. I mean, look, we had Kentucky lose. I had Iowa lose. I mean, teams that I had Gonzaga lost early.
You had the defending champs. Baylor was out in the second round. They were the first number 1. And then by Elite 8, they only had 1 number 1 seed, which was eventually the national champions in the Kansas Jayhawks. Probably the 1 seed that many people, they were probably the least. If you really think about it, coming into this tournament, most people had Gonzaga. A lot of people believe that Baylor could repeat. And people were really high on Arizona. But Kansas was under the radar the whole time, even though they were number 1 seed, and they were a talent. 100% agree. Great tournament. But this team is very talented, very experienced. They got bigs, they got shooters, they got heart, they got leadership, and they got a great coach, a coach that's won a championship before in Bill Self. But nobody was talking about him. All we were talking about,
because they didn't really have the star or the name.
Fine. But like Gonzaga, it's just Gonzaga's year. They got embarrassed last year. They're going to come back and they're going to finally win. Well, they were done in the Sweet 16. Arizona, everybody loved them. They were the darlings in the sense of they were the pick because they just felt like that type of team, the confidence. And Baylor, like I said, being the defending champs, you just felt like they were going to run through the bracket. Nobody was really talking about Kansas. I mean, people were talking about Kansas for obvious reasons. They were number 1 seed, deservingly so. But nobody was really talking about them among the 1 seeds. We're all talking about the other 3.
Well, Kansas we were talking about then Baylor. Kansas, listen, Kansas won the Big 12. They tied for the regular season championship. They won the Big 12. They won the Big 12 championship over Texas Tech. Listen, I just wish I paid attention to Kansas. I should have known. The thing with Kansas is they're always really good, and they always seem to falter in the tournament. That's one of their kind of nemesis things where they kind of always fall short. Great tournament overall. I mean, I remember watching the Arizona TCU game. They went to overtime when TCU had them kind of by the cojones late in the game. Arizona made some great plays. They won that game. So overall, though, let's get to the Final Four, though. Final Four overall success. You get 4 Blue Bloods. You get 2 good games. Probably the Villanova game would have definitely been a much better and a closer competitive game against Kansas, even though I think Kansas still would have pulled it out. But you go back to last night's game. Kansas jumps out on them. UNC comes back. Now we're watching UNC. Now it's like, wow, here comes UNC. UNC's running. They're controlling the game. And you watch them like, wow, they're really – I mean, people look as the 8 seed. Take away the 8 seed. They were not an 8 seed. They were an 8 seed because they played so poorly in the beginning of the season. But if you watch them down the stretch –
they're one of the hottest teams.
They were one of the better teams down the season. They had the talent. They had the coach. Hubert Davis did a great job in his first season at UNC. But here's the thing. Veteran teams, we talk about this all the time in the tournament. You fall in love with these teams like Duke and Kentucky. You have all these one-and-dones. They're superstars. They don't know how to play, though, when the moments get crushed, when they get compacted down, you get stuck in the corner. Kansas, they went into halftime. They made the adjustments. They jumped out on UNC. I mean, they blitzkrieged them like no other in the second half. 31-10.
They stormed the court like it was Normandy, Ted. They stormed it.
First 10 minutes of the second half, they outscored them by 21 points, 31-10. They cut the lead, and then they actually ended up taking over the lead. And then what you saw was great basketball down the stretch. The only thing I did not like was UNC's last 2 possessions, that last 18 seconds, and then when they got the ball. I didn't understand the 3 from 30 feet away. I understand you need the 3. You could have went for a quick 2. You never know. You get an and 1. I thought Kansas's defense really shut down UNC late in the second half, and it really affected the guards of UNC. I also think Baycock's injury of his ankle not being 100%. You could see he was limping a little bit last night. UNC also was gassed last night. Their guards had played. I could
give you the minute.
Davis and Love that played like 39 and 40 minutes in the game before. Baycock played 37 minutes. So they were not a deep team. Kansas was a little deeper. They had the transfer Remy Martin from Arizona State, which had some big threes last night. But overall, great game, great national tournament. And it came down to the wire, and that's exactly what you would want as an NCAA product and then what you would want as a fan. We didn't get the blowout where we're like, all right, the game got tuned away where UNC could have took over. You got the comeback. You got the historical comeback. Bill Self gets his second championship in Kansas. UNC has a really tough defeat, but overall success, and I'm very pleased with the product and and just the whole overall tournament. It's sad because it's 3 weeks. It's so much fun. It ends so quick. I was saying last night, so I can't believe I was in Florida when this tournament started, and now I'm sitting in. That's all. I'm sitting in my office at work watching the game.
Yeah, same thing last year. I was in Florida. I was in Tampa at the same time too, watching the first round of the tournament. And you think, wow, it just flies by, and that's what it does. It's so great yet so fast, but it delivered. And you look at last night's game. You look at the score. You look at the team balance. There was balance among both teams. My biggest thing was you look at the shooting from North Carolina. North Carolina shot 5 of 23 from three-point, Ted. 21%. And then overall, 31%. The big guys, Caleb Love, shot 5 of 24, 1 of 8. The guy that delivered for them to be in the position that they were in last night was because of guys like Baycott, Manick, RJ Davis, and Caleb Love. they all kind of struggled last night from the field. Yeah, they had solid games in the sense of everything else, but they struggled from the field. And for a team that only lost by 3 to be that situation, they had their opportunities. It just kind of, like you said, Ted, maybe they gave it everything they had on late Saturday night against the Duke Blue Devils. But congratulations to the new national champions. And by the way, that's back-to-back in the Big 12. Big 12 reigns supreme currently in college basketball. As the Baylor Bears won last year, now the Kansas Jayhawks are the 2022 NCAA national champions. Well-deserving, an overall outstanding tournament. It's sad that it's over with because, yes, 100%. It was an unbelievable weekend, a sports weekend, and we're just getting started. We got the NFL draft now to come. We're only 2 days away from baseball actually happening. Yankees, Red Sox, we're talking all about that as the Joseph McGuire will be back.
How is that not the opening series every year in baseball?
It's fantastic time, but like this weekend was just awesome. Just overall awesome. You had the Final Four delivered, WrestleMania. I know we don't talk a lot of wrestling, but you could check out Squared Circle Cycle Babble podcast as well if you wanted to. Our boys Michael and Ralph Valenti, who have an excellent podcast as well.
It's on YouTube. You'll see.
As also the Ovi Munoz has his own HH show. Go check it out too. So you had just a fantastic weekend overall. Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back, Ted, Pat McAfee delivering, just Triple H, Undertaker, an end of an era.
The end of the era of the Attitude Era with Triple H.
The end of
Undertaker, and then Stone Cold's last match. Incredible. I actually tuned in. I'll tell you.
Me and you don't watch wrestling a lot, but to watch WrestleMania,
it's out of the loop. I was saying last night, I told you the other day, I couldn't believe Stone Cold was 57, but like he hasn't fought in 21 years, and I'm thinking, well, I'm also getting old too. So I mean, I was 10, 12.
You about to be 35, bro.
Shut up. But I tell you, Pat McAfee, talk about a guy who he left the NFL as a punter. I mean, he got into the wrestling world with a little bit of the
it was his dream, bro.
And then he got into the rest. And I mean, he's got the best right now, best show.
He has one of the best overall jobs in the world. He's a host of his major hit podcast. And then he's also a commentator for the WWE. He got to wrestle, fought Vince McMahon, and got stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And he drank some beers with him.
I would love to drink some beers with Stone Cold, and I would take getting an Austin.
Did you see his show yesterday?
I would take a stunner by Austin.
Did you watch his show yesterday?
Who? McAfee's?
Yeah, I did. Yesterday when I got home from the gym, I watched the show. I watched the show, and they were just talking about, like, he was like, yeah, he was like, it's crazy. He was like, it's huge in the stadium. He was like telling stories. He's like, literally though, he's like, you don't know when your match is up. He's like, they make the decision like 5 minutes because they don't know like what's going on. He's like, I didn't know. He's like, you got to play it out like how long is Stone Cold. He said that Stone Cold probably drank about 40 beers Saturday night. He said when he saw if you watch his cooler, they brought the cooler, yeah. and they're like, he was saying like they bought 3 cases of beer for Stone Cold.
Here's the thing. If you watch his match, and anybody that's a wrestling fan and an Attitude Era type person specifically, I know we're talking a lot of wrestling right now quickly, but if you're an Attitude Era fan and you wanted to, and for all those youngsters too that want to know what it's like to see a Stone Cold Steve Austin crowd, pro heavy Stone Cold Steve Austin, just go back to Saturday and Sunday night and just watch the ovation that he still gets.
I think he gets a lot of ovation all weekend.
The most over guy maybe in the history of the WWE, with the exception of maybe The Rock and The Undertaker. Just to see overall how this weekend transpired was truly incredible. An historical standpoint from the Final Four and a historical standpoint from also WrestleMania. But we also talk about, well, there's always uncertainty with those, how everything's going to pan out with the WrestleMania, with sports in general. Well, that's coming into the situation that we have just under 23 days is the NFL draft. There's a lot of uncertainty that is swirling around this NFL draft. And yesterday was a big deal because we had our first major trade, and we expect many more to happen as that always goes on. But the Eagles, which had once 3 first-round picks, now currently have 2 first rounds this year and also 2 first rounds next year. Also, they're going to have some more picks in the future. But they traded with the New Orleans Saints, the full deal of this entire trade. So they had the 15th, 16th, and 19th, but the 16th and 19th are getting sent to the Saints and the 194th pick to the Saints for number 18, the 101, and the 237. So the Eagles will now have 15th and 18th, and the Saints will have the 16th and 19th coming in to this NFL draft season.
And the Eagles pick up another first round for next year. So they'll have 2 this year and 2 next year, which we have talked about before with the Giants talking about trading back as it's building for next year's draft class, possibly if Jalen Hurts does not pan out. We know teams are not afraid to go get new quarterbacks, similar to the Giants. Daniel Jones don't pan out. The quarterback class next year is a little bit more talented, I would say.
We'll definitely lean towards that quarterback class. But before we even get to those picks, we're going to start doing it like this. The picks 1 through 8. So if you see on the bottom of the screen, this is the order right now currently for the picks 1 through 8. But we're going to be talking about what to make of this top 8. Now, we know what these teams need. We have been hearing it for months. Jacksonville, we know they need defensive line help. They need offensive line help. We know the Lions and Texans pretty much need everything. The Jets need some secondary help. The Giants need offensive, defensive line. Quarterback, where does that come into play? Because it's Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis. Is Carolina the team that takes the first quarterback in this draft? Ted, I want to ask you what to make of this entire top 8 because we know, like I said, what this team needs are. We just don't know what player is going to. And that even starts at number 1, Ted. And I called you yesterday, and I said, Ted, would you be surprised if the Jacksonville Jaguars did take a defensive end, but it wasn't Aiden Hutchinson? It was the guy that's been the high riser of this entire NFL draft process, Trayvon Walker from the Georgia Bulldogs, 6'5", 275, ran a 4.51 at the NFL Combine, has all the talents to really take control of this draft and dominate for the long being in his career. But would you be surprised, Ted, on what to make of this entire top 8? Because you can't sit here and say that team is picking that player. I know people will say, oh, yeah, well, we know Jacksonville is going to take Aiden Hutchinson. Do we, though, Ted?
We don't know. I mean, I'm just looking at Charles Davis mock draft on NFL.
That's so funny because I have the same thing right now, too. And who's the first guy that's on the board, Ted?
Trayvon Walker, the defensive end from from Georgia. And you asked me the other day, you're like, Ted, what do you think about it? I'm like, here's the problem. We do this all the time. We fall in love with a guy that has really good numbers during the the combine and all this other stuff. But here's the thing. Where's the production when the field is there, right? Where is the production? Have we seen enough? Is he a product of Georgia's system having such talent? I mean, here's the thing. We've talked about this before with like Alabama players, like quarterbacks and other players. Like, are they a product of the system because like they have the best offensive line and they have like Najee Harris and they have three number 1 receivers? Like, is the quarterback really that good, or is it because the talent's so good around him that it just makes him better? You talk about Georgia's defense last year, one of the best defenses, maybe top 10 of all time in college football history. They were tremendous. I mean, Nakobe Dean is going to be probably a first round. Jordan Davis is going to be a first round. They have a cornerback that's probably going to be a first round. So they have talent. And if not in the first round, they'll probably – I don't know how many guys are in their draft, in their defense that's going to be in this draft. But I say whoever is going to be drafted, all right? So you're talking about elite talent on all levels of that defense, and you have one of the best defensive coaches in Kirby Smart. I'd still go with Aiden Hutchinson because he was the best player during the season last year. That's why he was up for the Heisman. Now, if there's something more that I'm missing that the tape tells that it's Walker or it's Kayvon Thibodeau, then take them. I don't think it's going to be an offensive tackle at number 1. So here's what you said. What do you take from this draft? There is no number 1 player. There is no one.
There's no surefire.
Here's the other thing. I don't think there is no stars right now coming out of the college game into this year's draft class. But that doesn't mean that in 3 to 5 years now we're not looking at this class going,
they can't transition into it.
How did we miss this guy? And how did this guy become this? Because you could say like, damn, Malik Willis, he's a star. Or Derek Stingley, who could have been a couple of years ago, you were thinking, maybe he's a top 3. You're talking Patrick Peterson type talent, Deion Sanders type talent. And he can be. He's been dealing with COVID, some injuries. If he falls back, who cares? That's going to be a win for someone else. I mean,
he's got his pro day tomorrow.
Yes, and that'll be a big thing for him. So, Thibodeau, who 2 years ago you're thinking he was definitely going to be the number. He was like a clown. But he's been plummeting in the draft. But you know what? That's going to be a win for someone. Someone's going to get a really talented player. And what I'd say is this class is not top heavy, But the meat of this draft class is so thick between the second, third, and fourth round. That's where you're going to see exceptional talent. You're going to see guys that could be first round talent, but because of things, it'll be in the second or third round. That's where you're going to see the meat of this draft class. This class is not top heavy. There's no superstars and then I'm not saying they're not superstars. They are superstars. They don't have that pull like a Clowney or a Reggie Bush or some of the guys that we have seen, the quarterbacks that we've seen come out in the last couple of years. But you're going to look at this class and be like, man, there is some depth. You got 5, 6, 7, 8 great pass rushers. You got like 12, 15 receivers. Again, there might not be 7 in the first round, but there might be 12 in the first 2 rounds. You know what I mean? So that's and even the offensive line. I mean, there's some really good offensive tackles. You might see 4 or 5 in the first round. You might see 10 in the first 2 rounds. So that just speaks volumes of how deep this class is. It doesn't have the superstar like a Trevor Lawrence or a Clowney or a Reggie Bush or a Myles Garrett, but there is really good talent. And I think we haven't seen many trades yet. My question is, how many trades will we see in this first top 10 picks? Even though there is not the superstar, we're like, I gotta go get him. I gotta go get that tackle.
Let me ask you this, because I think within this top 8, the big question is, and it's always the big question, especially in a class like this, because of that situation where you don't have that guy, what to make of the quarterback. Is it going to be Pickett or is it going to be Wills? And that's the fascinating debate, because of what we always talk about, and maybe not in this top 8 that we're going to really see any trades from any of these teams getting out or trading farther in to get one of those quarterbacks. That could be more of the picks 9 through 17 with those teams, where there are teams that need quarterbacks. I know teams like the Giants and Panthers could be looking for quarterback situation, Falcons as well, but there's more glaring holes that need to be filled for those teams. Is that where do you expect of this top 8? Do you expect one of the quarterbacks to go inside this top 8? And I said to you last week, don't be surprised if Malik Wills is going number 2 to Detroit or to somebody else.
I don't think Detroit takes that far up. They have way too many holes in defense. I don't think Detroit does that. Now, that doesn't mean that someone might not trade up to 2 or 3 or 4. See, like if I'm the Texans, I'm trading back. There's no one that I see right there that I need to take. I'm trying to trade back. If Carolina wants to come up to 3 to get Malik Willis, they want to come get one. They want to go get an impactful player. If whoever it is. I mean, maybe the Jets come up to 3 knowing someone's going to go take a receiver. They move up from 4 to 3. We've seen that before, with certain players. So there is no superstars. How many trades we see? I definitely think we're going to get at least one quarterback in the top 10. I definitely believe it's going to be Malik Willis. Everything I've read, everything I've seen, and watching NFL Live yesterday, I think Malik Willis, because of his extraordinary talent, ability to run, his ability to throw, he's got arm strength, he's got all the talent. I know he played at Liberty, but it would make sense for Detroit. You can get the quarterback of the future sitting behind Jared Goff, but they have so many pressing needs at defense. I think they take a defensive player. I believe the first 2 players will be defensive players. They will be defensive players. However, if it's Sauce Gardner, because the cornerback they took out Ohio State 2 years ago hasn't been healthy. What's his name, Trev? I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, Okudah has, and another Ohio State guy can't live up to the billing. But do they take another cornerback and have at least 2 elite corners? Do they take a pass rusher? There's Trayvon Walker might make a lot of sense. Maybe Kevon Thibodeau. What if Walker goes Hutchinson? Perfect set. He's in Michigan, Detroit, boom, bang, boom. He goes number 2. I think that makes a lot of perfect sense. I think the Texans could trade back, but I definitely think a quarterback goes in the top 8 to 10. Well, because here's the thing. I look at like the Giants, 5 and 7 would make perfect sense for a team to go get a quarterback, and the Giants are looking to trade at one of those picks. The Giants can still get high value for either of those picks. And if you see what the Saints just gave up to get the Eagles, I'm thinking, what would the Giants get if someone, like someone at 11, someone at 13 wants to come up to 7? You're talking multiple first rounds. You're getting 4 or 5 picks. And for the Giants team, especially the Giants team here, I think the Giants being at 5 and 7, I think there's no better there's no better year where the Giants are placed this year of if they just want to sit there
their
and
position, yeah.
if they want to sit there and take two players, whatever it is, if it's Gardner at cornerback, depending on what happens to Bradbury, they want to take Kyle Hamilton, the safety, because they've lost two safeties in Jabril Peppers and Logan Ryan. They want to take one of the tackles, which we know we can pair him up with Thomas. I've also heard, do they take a big time receiver and really help Daniel Jones? And then you have,
Let's talk about
it.
it. Because we are New York guys. Let's talk about the two New York teams. Because, like I said, there's a lot of situations going on for both those teams. A lot of weaknesses from them. A lot of glaring team needs for both these teams. The reason why they're in the top 10, both. Luckily, they got 2 top 10 picks. What do you guys think Green Bay does? We will give that to later on in the. To me, you have to go receiver. I mean, to make it really quick and sweet for you. They need to go receivers. You lost Devontae Adams. You lost probably the best offensive weapon in maybe all of football. You got to go get receivers. Go get both of your picks, 22 and 29. That has to be receivers, if not both picks are receivers to help out Aaron Rodgers. Look at the Jets. Jets have the 4 and 10th pick. Giants, we'll talk about the Jets' 10th pick later on when we do picks 9 through 17 next available show. But you look at these two teams. The Jets are in a situation where do they go offensive line? Protection. Mekhi Becton's already having some issues. That's looking like a pick that maybe could come back to haunt now the New York Jets, where we all thought that could be a pick that could flourish for the New York Jets, is all maybe taking a step back. And then you get the 10th pick. Do you add offensive line there? Do you add offensive line knowing you got the 10th pick, knowing that this is a deep offensive line class? Do you go receiver here, or do you go with the guy that I think they should, and it stinks, because the Giants at the 5 pick, and I would love for the Giants to get this guy because it is going to be a need. But do they go get cornerback help? They signed DJ Reed from Seattle this offseason, but you got to add another corner. You can never have too many corners in this league. And with the way the AFC is, specifically the AFC East, you're going to have to go against the Buffalo Bills, and the Miami Dolphins, who probably have the fastest weapons in all of the NFL, running back, receivers, tight ends. Yeah, you just get all the speed. You get speed. Everybody gets speed in Miami. But the Jets are going to realistically need to get some secondary help. And that's why I believe that the New York Jets, if they're, and I don't know if he's going to be there, Ted, because he could go number 2 or he could go number 3. And that's Sauce Gardner, who looks like to be now all of a sudden, we talk about risers. We talk about guys, you said it, Derek Stingley, Kayvon Thibodeau, 2 guys that were projected to be top 3 picks, maybe the number 1 pick in this draft class. We're talking about 2 guys that could be falling out of the top 10, and guys like Sauce Gardner and Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, Jermaine Johnson are all going up. And those 2 prized polarizing guys that I say polarizing, I know people don't like to use that word a lot, but let's be honest, these are 2 polarizing players in this draft, and Derek Stingley and Kayvon Thibodeau. What do you make of what the New York Jets should do, and how does that play into the factor what the New York Giants should also consider?
So everything I've read about the Jets is here's where I would go if I'm a Jets GM, right? So I want to see how Derek Stingley performs tomorrow, right? Because the way I look at it is if he performs really well, I don't need to take Sauce Gardner at 4. I could take Stingley at 10. If you do go with Sauce Gardner or one of the cornerbacks at 4, could be Stingley, depending on what you see and what you like. I'm definitely taking a receiver at 10 then. All right. Yeah. And if I don't take the receiver at 10, if I'm the Jets, I'm looking to trade back. Now, here's the thing. I think the Jets and the Giants are in perfect positions. They can get who they want if they want it right then and there, or they could trade back because both teams have so many pressing needs and they can add so much more value. And I think they could still, like if the Jets at 10, right? Perfect example. They take Gardner at 4 because they're not going to take a tackle. The Jets are probably not going to take an offensive lineman. I see the 2 areas I see the Jets getting is, and then a lot of this will be determined in the next 2 weeks is, do the Jets make a move for a receiver before the draft? Now, if the Jets make a move for the receiver, like if they trade the number 10 pick to Seattle for DK Metcalf, that changes the whole ballgame, which is one of the things we've heard. So you're looking at, okay, now you get
– and Seattle would get the 9 and 10 pick.
Well, yeah, exactly. And Seattle can rebuild. And the Jets, you would have the kid Moore you took out of Ole Miss last year. You would have the oh my God, you would have DK Metcalf, and then the one they drafted, they took from the Titans last year in free agency, Corey Davis. So now you would give Wilson a real opportunity to succeed in New York. You would give him 3 receivers, 3 studs. You give him an opportunity to succeed because we've talked about this with a lot of teams. We saw this with the Burrow thing. We've seen this. Give as many weapons as you can to your young quarterback. We'll try to figure out the offensive line as best possible. We'll coach him up, but let's give him weapons because I'm saying you can have all beautiful linemen up front, and that's I get it. It's very important. We saw it make a difference in the Super Bowl, and we've seen it the last couple of years. But if you can't get a guy that can get open, guys who keep receivers can't get open, it ain't going to matter who the hell is blocking because eventually the pass rush is good enough to get the thing. So let's get the ball to receivers' hands. That's why they went for Tyreek Hill. That's why there's been rumors about DK Metcalf. Do they go get another receiver? So that changes the whole ball game. But I think the Jets at 4, looking at defense. And if it's not Sauce Gardner, it's a pass rusher. It's Thibodeau, it's Walker, it's Hutchinson. It's one of the pass rushers because you got to remember, who's their head coach? Robert Saleh. Where did he come from? 49ers. What did they have? An elite pass rush. They don't have an elite pass rush. They need a pass rush. They need someone to get pressure on all these quarterbacks and Mac Jones.
But the only guy I would say, like, I know it sounds crazy.
Here's the thing. Why not take Thibodeau at 4 and then take the receiver
That's
at
what
10?
I'm saying. Like, I know people keep saying Thibodeau's going to fall out of the top 10, which I know he, like, I know for
he does, but then someone's going to get a steal because Randy Moss fell out of the top 10. And look how Randy Moss did for the Minnesota Vikings.
That's what I'm trying to say is that this guy is so extremely talented that I know that maybe he's a little different off the field in the sense of the way how he handles himself, but I see a guy that is confident. I see a guy that, yes, I know he likes to take off plays. He has that motor issue, and I know that's a very real concerning factor into this. But for that talent that's there possibly at 4, and you're desperately in need of a pass, could add to that pass rush with Carl Lawson, who didn't play last year. Or was it Shaq Lawson? I think it was Carl Lawson, who ended up getting hurt. One of their big signings got hurt last year. You could team him up with Thibodeau. I feel like the Jets and Giants are in good positions in the sense of for them, the needs that they need, there's going to be the real possibility that they can swipe out those 2 needs, and you can plug in 2 impact players, whether it's going to be for the Jets, Thibodeau, or a Sauce Gardner, or one of the other pass rushers, if so, or hell, maybe it is an offensive line with the Becton news too. And then the Giants, the Giants give me. Let me retract on my whole thing. I think the Jets are in a better position than the New York Giants because the Giants could be faced with a situation where you don't have Hutchinson, you don't have Neal, you don't have Okunwa, you don't have Sauce Gardner. There's your 4 right there. So what do the Giants do at 5 then? Do the Giants go Charles Cross? Do they try to trade out of 5? Do they go with Thibodeau?
You're saying all 3 patch. Wait. There's still be a patch. Hold on. There's 4 picks.
Tell you. Hold on. Number 1, say it's Hutchinson. Number 2, say it's another edge.
It would be Walker. Say it would be Walker.
Say it's Walker, or say it's Sauce Gardner or something. Just hypothetically. Okay. Number 3 is one of the offensive line. Number 4, since Gardner's gone, if he were to be, the Jets go shocking and take an offensive lineman and take Okunwa. Who are you taking at 5?
The Jets are not going to take Okunwa.
But you don't know that.
There's nothing that says the Jets are going to take the lineman. If you read, now listen, does that mean anything? Absolutely not, Chef.
That's what. But I'm just trying to say.
I'm just saying the Giants, I think, are in a perfect position at 5. I think the Giants are in a perfect position because one of the tackles or one of the pass rushers of the 3 pass rushers, because the first 4 picks, if 3 defensive players go, right? And there's still going to be Gardner, and there's still going to be one of the linemen. So I think the Giants are in a perfect position.
Well, the top 3 linemen in this draft.
I think the Giants are in a better position at 5 and 7 than the Jets are at 4 and 10.
Well, the top three offensive line in this draft class right now, and it's a very deep offensive line class. I think we all can agree is Evan Neal from Alabama, Ike Okunwa from NC State, and Charles Cross from Mississippi State. The edge rushers
from Northern Iowa.
Yeah, he's more later into, I would say, outside the top 10, maybe 15 to 10.
But hey, listen, we've seen teams reach.
And then and then you see for the defensive line, the top 3, I think we all could agree, is Hutchinson. I still will put Thibodeau in there or Trayvon Walker. Those are your top 3 with Jermaine Johnson right outside that top 3.
That's another guy who could go in the top 10 too. See, I'll answer Sanders' question. He asked, what was one of the questions? Who takes Drake London? Here's my thing: if the Jets end up getting DK Metcalf, maybe the Seattle takes him with the 9th or 10th pick.
I think Atlanta's in play, and I think Seattle, and if the Jets, I think those are the 3 teams.
And then and here's another thing: just saying, if the Packers or the Chiefs or someone else wants to give up their multiple first-round picks to go up high to go get a receiver like him, that's another 2 teams that are a possibility.
Yes.
because I don't see Minnesota. I don't think Washington's going to be a possibility. I don't think Pittsburgh's. The Eagles, maybe. Listen, they got 2 first-round picks. They're looking at weapons for Jalen Hurts. So, but I don't think Drake London falls to 15. I believe one of the receivers will be taken in the top 12, if not in the top 10. It's just inevitable. We've seen receivers and their impact in the NFL, their rookie season. There's no learning curve. They go in and they start and they make an impact on day one. We've seen that multiple years in a row.
The past couple of years, look at the 2 LSU kids back-to-back years. Justin Jefferson took the league by storm. Jamar Chase comes in and says, "Oh, yeah, I know. I was just joking around, guys. I can catch the ball," and tears the entire league up this season, I should say. It's just you look at it from 1 through 8, and we didn't get to talk about the 2 NFC South teams who are in. Those are 2 teams that they're in quarterback situation. Those are 2 teams that have to figure out: are you going to go with maybe, especially the Panthers, you're going to go offensive line or you're taking the quarterback? And then Atlanta, are you going to go receiver? You're going to add maybe some defense to a defense that's been pretty bad for some time, or do you go to quarterback? Like, these are just some of the questions right now that are just swirling within the top 8. And you got another 24 picks to go. You don't know how this top 8 is going to be. Hell, you don't even know how the top 3 is going to go.
Well, and that's because I was just going to say, there's no, like I was saying when we started.
Well, you were saying earlier, Ted.
There's no distinction between the top tier guy, like the 4 guys, other than Hutchinson, I would say, and it seems like Walker, but who knows? Other than Hutchinson, anyone from 2 to 10 is flexible. I could see a Drake London going in the top 4. I could see a Malik Willis going in the top 4. I could see both tackles falling outside the top 5, just because you see. Now, here's the thing: like we've seen this before. Say Walker goes 1, right? Say Jags do this, and they do crap like this. They take Walker at number 1. Detroit takes Hutchinson at 2, right? Texans say, you know what?
I think they take.
Hold on, Texans go. We want to take Thibodeau.
I think they take Evan Neal.
Now, okay, very likely. Possibly you team him up with Larry Tunsil.
Larry Tunsil.
Wake up.
No, wake up.
Jesus,
wake up.
Back to back. So now you got 3 defensive linemen going off. Now, here's what happens. Now it's a domino effect to the rest of the draft going, oh, shit, we got to hurry up and come get someone. Because that's what happens. It's just like once that quarterback goes, there's going to be a run on quarterbacks. And because now the depth, it changes. So now does Jermaine Johnson hurry up, gets pushed into the top 10, and a guy like Sauce Gardner get pushed up to the top, move out? Like if you do the tackles fall? Who falls?
I think
we've seen that because one team, depending on their pick, changes the whole rest. Could change the whole.
I was about to say. I think the moment you hear the name Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis within that top 10, top 5, whatever you want to call it, top 10. We'll go with the top 10 right here. I think that's where you see a lot of the pandemonium, the bedlam, the people that are starting to rush, desperation because of the teams that need quarterbacks are going to eventually need to cough up some of those draft picks. Then once you see Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett, do you two think any team that takes a quarterback is just wasting? No, but
I think anyone that takes a quarterback is not wasting a pick. There's a reason for the pick. Now, here's the thing. Yes. I think Malik Willis makes perfect sense for Carolina. You can start Darnold off the bat, and if he plays poorly again, you put in Malik Willis. Here's what I'd say.
I see Carolina picking Kenny Pickett.
What we've seen is you need to get a quarterback, right? I think Malik Willis has the best overall talent in this draft class quarterback-wise. He's most athletic. He's got a little bit of everything. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's got a quick release. He's got the ability to run, not as fast as Lamar, but Josh Allen style. Not as big, but he can make plays with his legs. He had over 800-some yards rushing last year. He can throw the ball deep, and he was doing things with liberty. I like to see him when he's throwing the ball to real receivers. Get him in the backfield with Christian McCaffrey running the read option, throwing the ball to DJ Moore. You got things. And here's the other thing. The reason why you take a quarterback in the first round is similar to other teams, but you get that 5th-year option. It gives you that extra year where you don't get if you take in the 2nd, 3rd year. So if you don't want to start him, you got that extra year. You got that red shirt. You have that red shirt year. So I think that makes perfect sense. Malik Willis at 6. I don't think Atlanta takes a quarterback. because I think Atlanta thinks bigger picture. I think Atlanta goes, let's build the rest of the team that we have around. Let's see what talent we give. Let's give Mariota an opportunity to just do what he has to do this year. And we're going to get a quarterback next year, either through draft, either through trade, or in free agency. But we're going to build next year because there's not a quarterback right now that we go, he's a Matt Ryan. He's not the number one guy. We don't have a Josh Allen. We don't have a Lamar Jackson. We don't have that guy right now.
And more importantly, there's bigger needs that for a roster that is depleted and for
similar to the Giants. The Giants are people like, well, should the Giants take a quarterback at 5? No, don't think why. That's a wasted pick. It makes no sense. Then trade Daniel Jones, cut him, cut everyone, and start refresh. Just don't do it. If next year you do it, you got to give him an opportunity. That's why we're talking. Let's get a defensive player and let's get a receiver. Let's get some running backs. Let's get players. Let's give Daniel Jones that one last opportunity. If not, we're going to tell him to kick rocks. We're going to kick him to the curb. See you later. We're not going to give him his 5th-year option, and we'll worry about it next year. But we're going to take a quarterback, even though Malik Willis could be a star.
To answer your question, Xander, no. I don't think any team is wasting a pick if you're taking a quarterback. If it's a team like Carolina, specifically in this top 10, if you're a team like Carolina, Atlanta, teams that need quarterbacks, I don't see other than those two teams taking quarterback. Jacksonville's got their guy. Detroit is in play. Detroit becomes the wild card of this entire draft. And I say the entire draft because we know what Jacksonville's going to do. We just don't know the player that it's going to be. Is it going to be Hutchinson? We all assume that's what it's going to be. But don't be surprised, Ted, if it is Trayvon Walker or hell, if it is Kayvon Thibodeau out of the blue. You just don't know. And then the draft really starts at number 2 because Detroit is a team that needs everything. And one of those positions that is included in that word everything is the quarterback position because they are going to be looking to move off for Jared Goff. Do they decide to pull the trigger and say Malik Willis our guy or Kenny Pickett? Or do we build for a roster that is in rebuild mode, needs more pieces around, or hell, do they trade out and pick up more draft picks? Because teams, like we just said, that could be looking for a quarterback, become desperate. And when you become desperate, you do desperate things. You just don't know where these two quarterbacks are going to go. And I think those are the two quarterbacks that, to me, will go in the first round. Maybe Corral or Ritter go late in the first round. Teams try to trade back into the first round. But I see Pickett and Wills being the two main guys in this draft. Would you be stunned, Ted? Because I've seen mock drafts. Would you be stunned if Pickett, my last question to you, that Pickett or Wills or no quarterbacks go draft in the first round? Would you be stunned by that?
That would be the biggest shocker of this whole time.
Because I said Bucky Brooks.
Put it down now.
I'm saying that because hold on.
5th, that there will be at least 3 quarterbacks drafted in the first round.
I'm just saying because I see Bucky. I'm just saying because I seen Bucky Brooks have a mock draft that they didn't have one quarterback in the first round. So I've seen mock drafts that don't have quarterbacks. Some of these quarterbacks not going. You say 3.
Listen, quarterbacks are definitely getting chosen in this first round because of the thing I talked about before, where you get the 5th.
Let me ask you this: who would be the 3 quarterbacks? Who's the 3rd quarterback?
I think Corral.
I think Ritter can go. I think Corral or Ritter could be the.
I think Ritter
like Matt Corral.
Because here's the other thing. We've seen this before, right? So you're the 32nd, 31st, 30th pick. We've seen this before.
Don't forget the Lions do have the 32nd.
The team in the second round trades up late in the verse because they want to get that 5th-year option. They want to have that extra redshirt year. So if you're like, whoever it is, right? You're at the end of the class and you have a veteran quarterback and you want to get a younger quarterback where you could sit him for that 5th year. Sit him. You can literally sit him for a year. You do so.
Yeah.
I think guaranteed there'll be 2 quarterbacks. I would not be surprised if they're 3. I would be shocked. I'll put money down right now that there's at least 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round. It's inevitable. The game is too important. If there's no quarterbacks drafted in the NFL, then the NFL, I don't know what happened to it, because then we're playing rugby. Because the game is so important to have the quarterback that these 2 quarterbacks are not that bad not to be taken in the first round. Cody Pickett was definitely a first-round talent. Malik Willis has everything to be a first-round talent. I don't know how those guys do. I wouldn't be surprised if those guys are taking the first 15 picks. It's inevitable. Listen, Daniel Jones went 6, all right? The game is about quarterbacks. People go get quarterbacks. We see it every year. Someone's going to trade up and say, I can make that guy special, and I'm going to go get him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, 100%.
So I would say at least 2 quarterbacks, probably 3. I would love to know what the Vegas line is because that's a good thing. Is it over 2.5? Is it 3.5?
And here's what I was going to say. The great thing is you don't have to start these guys. So say a team like Detroit takes them, or Atlanta, Washington, Seattle,
Carolina.
You have guys. I know that they're not long-term quarterbacks, but you have guys already put in place that can play. You don't need to rush these guys. I feel like this is a class. This isn't like last year's class where, like Trevor Lawrence, you already knew Trevor Lawrence was going to be the day one starter. Zach Wilson looked like he was going to be this day one starter. Mac Jones was a surprise. Trey Lance, well, we already know Trey Lance's situation. And then Fields, we all thought Fields should have been the starter. But this class, Ritter, Corral, Wills, Pickett, these are guys that, yeah, probably may have a chance to be starting day one, but you don't have to rush them.
You don't.
And all those teams that need quarterbacks have some sort of answer right now, not long term, so you don't have to rush. All I'm saying is we really don't know how this draft is going to play out. I know the number 1 pick is Jacksonville. We don't know who they're going to take. Could be Hutchinson, could be Trayvon Walker. The draft to me really starts at number 2 with the Detroit Lions and then here on out. We'll be talking about picks 9 through 17 for our next, and then we're also going to be posting our N.0 coming within the next couple of days. And then we'll have the Joseph Aguirre making his triumphant return, discussing some MLB baseball starting on Thursday between the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox. Is it the Dodgers to win? What to make of the AL East? What to make of the NL West, too? We're going to talk about all of it as much as we can on Keys to the City. And let's hope for another great baseball season. But a lot is happening in sports, and I continue to say it because I'm a happy sports fan. Can't go wrong with it. Couldn't be bad. We have a new champion in college basketball. We're going to be moving on to baseball. NBA playoffs will be getting underway soon. Ooh, it's a good time.
Finally, the Lakers will be out of the playoffs. We don't have to talk about them. Exciting news. The draft is coming up.
I just got to say that I have literally some of the worst luck right now with my sports teams. I know people want to say that all my sports teams are like high big names. I get that. But the Giants haven't won anything. Duke had their opportunity and lost it. The Lakers are an embarrassment right now. What do I got? I got the Yankees that can't get out of the freaking wild card round. I got nothing right now. I need some hope. I need some luck. I don't know. It's just not a good time to be a sports fan.
We got a lot of things, and the New York Rangers. I mean, I know you don't watch hockey.
Whoa. I watch hockey.
You don't watch hockey. You're in Florida. You don't even know what hockey is down there.
First of all, you just said Florida. The Florida Panthers are one of the best teams in hockey, and could win the championship. Could win the championship.
Rangers, baby, Rangers.
I want the Rangers, but don't say Florida because the Florida Panthers right now are one of the top teams in hockey.
And Tampa Bay's right there too.
Yeah. What are you talking about Florida? Don't give me this crap. I don't see anybody. Florida's dominating right now, baby. Florida's dominating the sports world. Tampa Bay Rays are kicking ass. The Buccaneers are kicking ass. The hockey teams are kicking ass. Everybody's kicking ass. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back Thursday. We're going to be back Thursday specifically to have our MLB preview show with the Joseph Aguirre, specifically talking baseball on Thursday. And then we're going to try to get back on Friday, like I said, to talk NFL draft more, picks 9 through 17 for NFL draft. And we'll be posting our NFL mock draft 2.0 by the end of the week. But ladies and gentlemen, we are Keys to the City. We are streaming on all social media platforms at Keys to the City. So comment, like, subscribe, or share, or follow. Also, check out clovercrestmedia.com for many more podcasts, including us, and many more. Or check out the Joseph Aguirre if you're trying to get involved with Clovercrest Media or in this field in general. Ladies and gentlemen, Clovercrest Media presents Keys to the City. We are out.
Yeah. Keys to the city, baby. When you see us, so you know you really viewing greatness in the making. Double up on facts we stating. Podcasting, cruise control, city, state, the nation. So what you saying, what we saying, prime information. Facts, keys to the city, we unlocking the statements.
Streaming every Friday.